Samosa is maybe one of the favorite snack items for a lot of people. So we are actually going to see if we can make our session of maxima minima a little interesting using samosas. Let's look at this example. I go to a shopkeeper who sells samosas, and this shopkeeper tells me that samosas would be sold only in lots of 20. So every time I buy samosas, I will have to buy a lot of 20 samosas. The shopkeeper further tells me that for the first 200 samosas that I buy, which effectively would mean 10 lots, the price per samosa is 2 rupees. So if I buy 200 samosas and the price per samosa is 2 rupees, I have to pay 400 rupees to the shopkeeper. Then the shopkeeper tells me that with every additional lot that I buy beyond the first 200 samosas, the shopkeeper is willing to reduce the price per samosa by 10 paise. What does that mean? If I buy 220 samosas, which means one lot of 20 beyond the first 200, the price per samosa would now be 1 rupee 90 paise. If we continue in this manner, and if we want to find out what is the maximum possible revenue that the shopkeeper can earn in any one single order, then how would we calculate this? This would involve our concepts of maxima minima. So we will have a look at these concepts of maxima minima and then come back and solve this problem for the shopkeeper. Let's see what we really mean by this topic called as maxima minima, or actually what kind of questions can be asked. To start with, what would happen is, suppose you are given a function in terms of x. Suppose y is given as a function of x. Now this function that is given could either be a linear function or a quadratic function or whatever it may be. So you're given a function, and then suppose a certain range is specified for x. The question would basically talk about what is the maximum possible value of y within that given range. So let's just take some random examples. Suppose you're given two linear functions, and the linear functions converted graphically, suppose they happen to be something of this type. And then the question talks about the fact that you are supposed to take the maximum out of these two linear functions, which means we would take this part for this line and we would take this part for this line, and hence this actually now would represent our function. Suppose further a certain range is defined for x, which actually would cover only so much part, and hence we are now talking about this part being our function, and the question could be, within this specified range, what is the maximum possible value that y can take? So this is a typical example for maxima minima. Given a function, maybe given a range for x, what is the maximum possible value for y? Now in place of a linear function, it is possible that the function would be a quadratic function. Suppose we are given one which is a normal u because there is a positive x square term, another which is an inverted u because there is a negative x square term, and then a similar thing could be in terms of information could be provided for this question where a range is given and then the maximum or the minimum value of y is asked. So in simple terms, when we talk about maxima minima, we are looking at a function, maybe a range for x, and within that range what is the maximum or minimum value that y can take. These are typical problems of maxima minima. Let's look at this concept where we need to find the maximum value of a product given that the sum of those numbers is a constant. So let's take an example. Suppose we say a plus b plus c is equal to 18. We need to find the maximum value of a into b into c. Now whenever we ask this question in a class, the most common answer that we get is the maximum value of this product would be 6 into 6 into 6, which is 216. Why? Because the concept here is that if the given sum is a constant, then the product is maximum when each value is the same. So we look at this sum which involves three numbers, which is equal to 18. So if the product has to be maximum, then each value should be equal to 6, and hence the product becomes 216. Now as a concept, yes, this may be correct, but there is a slight important point that we need to remember, that this concept is true only when we know that the numbers are positive. Why is this so important? It is possible that we have A as, let's say, minus 100, B as also, let's say, minus 100, and C as, let's say, 218. The sum is still equal to 18, but now if we take the product of A, B and C, is going to be much larger than 216. So as a concept, it's correct that given the sum as a constant value, the product would be maximum if each value is the same, but please remember that is only when it is mentioned that the numbers are all positive numbers. So if in this particular question, this line was mentioned that the numbers are positive, then we would have used the concept where every number has to be the same. So A, B and C all would be equal to 6, and then the maximum value of the product according to this would be 216. So to summarize this particular concept, if the sum of a few numbers is given as constant, and if we know that the numbers are positive, then the product will be maximum if each value is the same, and hence in this particular example it would have been 216. Having seen this basic concept involving sum equal to constant when is product the maximum, let's take up another example. Suppose we say A plus B plus C is equal to 20, and it's given that A, B and C are positive numbers. And if the question asked is maximum value of A into B into C. Now we've already studied a concept where we've said that if the sum is constant and if all the numbers are positive, then the product will be maximum when each term A, B, C here has the same value. Now a very common answer in a class again is it's not possible for these three to be equal because 20 is not divisible by 3. Not necessarily true, because numbers can be fractions, and hence this would be maximum now if A, B and C are all equal to 20 upon 3, and hence the maximum possible value of the product would be 20 upon 3 into 20 upon 3 into 20 upon 3, which would be 8000 upon 9. Remember, numbers can be fractions. If for this example it was mentioned that the numbers cannot be fractions and they have to be integers, then it is true that each value cannot be equal. A, B and C cannot be equal because 20 is not divisible by 3. So the next best case is when the three values are as close to each other as possible. So now if we have to solve a question where A plus B plus C is equal to 20, A, B, C are positive, and if it is mentioned that they are integers, what is the maximum possible value of A into B into C? Then we would consider a case where A is equal to 7, B is equal to 7, C is equal to 6, because we say that these three are integers and they are as close as possible to each other, and the sum of these is still 20, and hence the maximum product possible now would be 7 into 7 into 6. So when a sum is given as constant, we need to be very careful about the other given instructions, which would mean, is it mentioned that they are all positive, are fractions allowed or not allowed, and so on, and then we would be able to consider the values as either equal or maybe as close to each other as possible. Let's look at a slightly different example based on the same concept. Suppose it's mentioned that A plus B plus C is equal to 18, and now we want to find the maximum of A plus 3 multiplied by B minus 2 multiplied by C plus 5. Now it is important that it is also mentioned that A is greater than minus 3, B is greater than 2, and C is greater than minus 5, because when this is mentioned, we are ensuring that each bracket gives us a positive value, which we've already discussed is essential to be mentioned. Now when we want to solve this question, we first need to express the given equation, which was only in terms of A, B and C, in terms of these brackets. So how would we do that? Suppose we try and write it down in the same manner, involving these terms given in the brackets. So what we have actually done on the left hand side here, we've added 3, subtracted 2 and added another 5. So what is the net effect? We have in all added 3 plus 5, which is 8, minus 2, which is 6, and hence on the left hand side we've added 6. Now if we want to maintain the equation as earlier, then we need to add 6 on the right hand side, and hence we can say even with these changed terms the equation remains the same as earlier. Now what we see is we want the product of these 3 brackets as a maximum value. Again, if we go back to the same concept, if the sum of these 3 brackets is a constant, then the product of these 3 brackets would be maximum when each bracket would have the same value, which now if we divide 24 by 3, we get that as 8. Hence, the answer to the question as the maximum value of this product would simply be 8 into 8 into 8, which is 512. What we can note here is that this maximum product does not happen at the same value of A, B and C. Why? Because actually now A plus 3 is equal to 8, which means A is equal to 5. B minus 2 is equal to 8, which means B is equal to 10. And C plus 5 is equal to 8, which means that C is equal to 3. So please note that to solve this question, we haven't taken A, B and C as equal, but these brackets as equal, and we've still used the same concept, which is if the sum given is constant, then the product is maximum if each term in the product has the same value. Let's look at a final example on the same concept. We again have A plus B plus C is equal to 18, and the question now asked is the maximum of A square into B cube into C raised to 4. Now the question asked refers to 2 terms for A, which is A into A, 3 terms for B, B into B into B, and 4 terms for C. So is it possible to express this given equation in a manner that we split up A into 2 parts, B into 3 parts and C into 4 parts? Let's see how to manage that. We can simplify this as A upon 2 plus A upon 2, because these 2 put together would still be A, but I've split it up into 2 parts. Why? Because I want 2 parts of A here. And then we can split up this B into 3 parts as B upon 3 plus B upon 3 plus B upon 3. And we can split up this C into 4 parts because we need 4 here as C upon 4 plus C upon 4 plus C upon 4 plus C upon 4. And this total is equal to 18, which is what was given. Now if we look at the left hand side here, we have 9 parts in all. And we again go back to the same concept that the product would be maximum when each part is the same. Hence, if a total of 9 parts is equal to 18, then each part would be equal to 2. Now what do we mean by each part equal to 2? We would say A by 2 is equal to 2, B by 3 is equal to 2, and C by 4 is equal to 2, which would mean that A is equal to 4, B is equal to 6 and C is equal to 8. And now the question asked is the maximum of A square into B cube into C raised to 4. So what we would get here now is the maximum value is 4 square into 6 cube into 8 raised to 4. So when the question asked involves powers out here, what we try and do is we split up the given equation into those many parts depending on the powers, and then again use the concept that each part has to be the same from this equation, find the values of A, B and C and just substitute them into the question asked. So these are the different types that can be asked within the same concept, which is if the sum is constant, the maximum value for the product would occur when each value is the same. We've seen a concept where if the sum is constant, when will the product be maximum? Let's now reverse it. if the product is given as a constant, when will the sum be minimum? So if it is given that A into B into C is equal to 64, which is a constant, then A plus B plus C would be minimum, again using the same logic, when each value is the same. Now if each value A, B and C has to be the same, it would mean that each value is equal to 4, and hence the minimum sum would be 4 plus 4 plus 4, which is equal to 12. Just to remind you, this concept is again based on the condition that all A, B and C should be positive. So if the product is constant and if each term is positive, then the sum is minimum when all the three values are the same, which in this case happen to be 4. Now if suppose we take a case where we are looking at the product of 4 numbers which is equal to 20, and the question asked is the sum of these 4 being minimum, please note that if I now want to take each of these 4 values as equal, then each value would have to be 4th root of 20. Only when each value is the 4th root of 20 will the product be 20, and hence if I want the minimum possible value of this sum, it is 4 times 4th root of 20. So in such cases, it is also possible that each individual value is not an integer. Just to remind you again, the condition here, I am still assuming each term is positive, but it is not an integer, and we could have such a case also. So to summarize, if the product is given as a constant, each individual value is given as a positive number, then the sum is minimum when all the individual values are equal. Let's take an example of a quadratic function and try and understand this method of derivatives. Suppose we take a quadratic function in its general form, which is ax square plus bx plus c. Now in our step-by-step method, after generating the function, the first step was to find out the first order derivative, which if we solve now, it will be, when we try to solve it using derivatives, you will get 2ax plus b. And in the second order derivative, when we find the derivative of the derivative, we would get 2a as our second order derivative. Why are we finding the second order derivative? Just to check if it's a maxima or a minima situation. And now here we notice that it depends on the sign of a. If a is a positive term, this value is positive, which indicates this is a minima situation. If a is a negative term, then this value is negative, which indicates it's a maxima situation. Then our next step was to equate the first order derivative to 0, and hence we would get 2ax plus b is equal to 0, which means x is equal to minus b upon 2a. Now this actually can be remembered as a formula for any quadratic function that we start with, that the maxima or minima would always occur at minus b upon 2a, where b and a are the coefficients of x and x square respectively. So whenever you solve a question involving a quadratic function, we can straight away look at the function, use the values of a and b, and understand that the maxima or minima would always occur at x equal to minus b upon 2a. Having seen some basic rules to calculate derivatives, let's now try and understand the steps involved in trying to calculate maxima or minima using derivatives. The first step is always to generate the function. Very often in problems, the function may not be directly given to us. We need to first generate the function, which would be something like y as a function of x. Once the function has been generated, the second step is to find the derivative of this function with respect to the independent variable, and hence we are finding the derivative of y with respect to x, which is also denoted as f dash x. The third step in this process is to find the second order derivative. Now what do we mean by the second order derivative? A higher order derivative is nothing but a derivative of a derivative. So the second order derivative would be nothing but the derivative of the first order derivative, which has already been calculated here, which is also denoted as f double dash x. What is the objective of calculating this second order derivative? The objective of calculating this is just to try and figure out whether this is a maxima situation or a minima situation. If this second order derivative is a negative value, then it indicates that this is a situation of maxima. However, if this second order derivative is a positive value, then it indicates that this is a situation of minima. So all that we do through this third step, which is the second order derivative, is figure out whether this is a maxima situation or a minima situation. Having figured that out now, what we do in the fourth step is whatever we found as the first order derivative, we equate that to 0. Now the objective of finding this or using this step, which is equating the first order derivative to 0, is to actually calculate the value of x at which there will be a maxima or a minima. So when we equate this first order derivative to 0, we will get the value of x as a particular constant value, and that is the value at which this original function is either maximum or minimum. And now if we want to find the maximum value of the function, then we substitute the value of x that we get from this step into this function that we have already generated, and we find the maximum or minimum value of y. So if we go through this step-by-step process, a few important points would be: first order derivative that has been calculated should be equated to 0 to find the value of x at which there is a maxima or a minima. And finally, if the question asks is the maximum value of the function, then you substitute that value of x in this first step and get the maximum or minimum value of y. This is how we would use the method of derivatives to calculate the maxima or minima. So now that we've gone through our concepts of maxima minima, let's go back to our earlier introductory question of samosas and let's see how to solve that question. If we just recap the question, if we go through a recap, then we had discussed that samosas can be bought only in lots of 20 at 200 samosas, or for an order of 200 samosas, the per samosa price was 2 rupees, and for every additional lot beyond 200 samosas, the shopkeeper was willing to reduce the price per samosa by 10 paise. So now there are multiple ways of solving this question. Let's look at one method which can be extremely mechanical in nature, which is saying that when I buy 200 samosas and the per samosa price is 2 rupees, then the price that I have to pay, or the total revenue for the shopkeeper, would be 400 rupees. Now if this 200 becomes 220, which means one additional lot, and the price for each samosa has gone down by 10 paise, so then this would get multiplied by 1.9 and we can find out the revenue for this. And similarly, if we move on to 240, then this price would become 1.8 and so on. So here what we are doing actually is we are using an extremely mechanical method to solve, and we would come to a particular point, we would go through it in steps, and then when we look at this particular value of 300 samosas, this has gone down to 1.7, this has gone down to 1.6, this at 1.5 becomes 450 rupees, and now if we take one step prior to that, this would have been 448 rupees, and if we take one more step beyond this, then this again would be 448 rupees. So in this mechanical method, what we would have found out is that the revenue goes on increasing till it reaches 450, and then beyond that it further goes on reducing, and hence the maximum revenue for the shopkeeper would be 450 rupees, That is, if I buy 300 samosas in one order, and the price per samosa would have been 1 rupee 50 paise. This is a mechanical method to solve this particular question. Let's try and look at another way of solving the question where we actually can make use of our concepts of derivatives. Now, before we actually use the method of derivatives, we need to generate the function for revenue, and that function for revenue would be in terms of the number of samosas and the price per samosa that is being charged. So we had a base figure of 200 samosas, and then beyond that, for every additional lot, which meant 20 samosas in each lot, the price initially at 200, the price per samosa was 2 rupees. So this bracket is going to refer to the number of samosas, and this bracket is going to refer to the price per samosa. We know that beyond this, for every additional lot of 20, the price, when we get into additional lots, the price goes down by 10 paise per samosa. So if I look at 2 as a base price, then that will go down by 0.1 into x, where x is going to be the number of samosas that I am buying. So if I go back to this example, when I purchased 220 samosas, then the price went down by 10 paise for all the samosas, and that is how we would hence get 0.1x. We'll try and understand how to calculate maxima minima using a completely different method now. Let's look at this example where we say fx is equal to minus 35 plus 26x minus 3x square. We obviously can use a method of derivatives and solve this question, but suppose we want to learn another method which is called as adjusting the sum. So let's try and understand how to solve this question using this method of adjusting the sum. We will try and factorize this first of all, and if we factorize this using our normal method of quadratic equations, then we would be able to factorize this as x minus 7 multiplied by 5 minus 3x. I mean, just to cross check, product of this is minus 35. This gives us a minus 3x square, and then if we try and solve this product, we get 5x and we get 21x, and hence a total of 26x. So this is what the factorized version would be for this quadratic expression. We want to adjust the sum. Now, why is it that we want to adjust the sum? We've already gone through a concept where we've said that if the sum of a certain expression, let's say a plus b, is given as a constant, then we know that a into b, the product would be maximum when each term has the same value. So what we now try and do, we take these two individually and we say x minus 7 plus 5 minus 3x. What are we trying to check? We are trying to check if this sum is constant. Because if this sum is constant, then whatever be the constant value can be divided into two equal parts, so that the product of these two brackets would then automatically be the maximum. But when we try to solve this, we will notice that the sum is not a constant. And it's not a constant because if we want to eliminate this minus 3x, then we need a plus 3x here for the sum to become a constant. This is why we call this method adjusting the sum. So what we would do, we would try and create a 3x term here by multiplying by 3, and if we still want to maintain the equation, we would have to multiply the left hand side also by 3, and hence we can state the equation as 3fx is equal to, we multiply this bracket by 3 and hence we get 3x minus 21 multiplied by 5 minus 3x. Now if we add these two brackets, we would get a constant value of minus 16. Now we go back to our earlier concept that if the sum of two terms is constant, then the product of those two is maximum when each is the same. Since the sum of these two would be minus 16, and if the two individual brackets have to be equal, then each bracket would be equal to minus 8, and that is how we would get the maximum value of that product. But now what we also need to understand, fx is not just equal to this, it is 3 into fx is equal to minus 8 into minus 8, and hence the maximum value of fx would actually be equal to 64 by 3. So this is an example where we have found the maximum value of the function by adjusting the sum. If the sum is not constant, try and use a multiplier such that the sum becomes constant, and then use the same concept. If sum is constant, product is maximum when each value is the same. Before we use our method of derivatives to solve this particular problem, we need to actually first generate the function for revenue. Now this function for revenue is going to be dependent on the number of samosas and the price per samosa. So let's say revenue is equal to a certain bracket which will indicate the number of samosas multiplied by another bracket which will indicate the price per samosa. Now our base point was 200 samosas, at which the base price was 2 rupees per samosa. And then we were told that additional lots of 20 can be purchased. So if I say that additionally 20 into x lots are purchased, if x is 1, that means one lot of 20 is purchased, and hence the number of samosas would become 220. For each additional lot, the price goes down by 10 paise. So which means the price would now become 2 minus 0.1 into x. If x is equal to 2, that means that 2 additional lots would have been purchased, which means 240 samosas, and the price per samosa for all 240 would have been 2 minus 0.2, which means 1.8. So if we expand this now, we would get 400. This would give us a plus 40x, and this product would give us a minus 20x. So effectively plus 20x and minus, when we multiply this, we get 2x squared. So this is our function for revenue in terms of x. Now our next step in derivatives would be to find the derivative of this particular function with respect to x, and when we solve this, it would be 20 minus 4x. If we again go back to our method of derivatives, this needs to be equated to 0, and hence if we solve this, we get x is equal to 5, which means the maxima will occur when 5 extra lots are purchased. And if 5 extra lots are purchased, it would mean 300 samosas need to be purchased at a price of 1 rupee 50 paise each, and hence my maximum revenue would be 300 multiplied by 1.5, which would be 450 rupees. Same answer using a different method which involves derivatives. Let's look at yet another way of solving the same question. We are now going to build on that same function that we had generated for revenue, where we said revenue in terms of x was 200 plus 20x multiplied by 2 minus 0.1x. If we start with this as a given function, and we've already learned a particular method where we said how to find the maxima or minima by adjusting the sum. So let's try and understand how to adjust the sum. When we look at what is asked, we need to maximize the product of two numbers, let's say, or two brackets. Now the product of these two brackets will be maximum, and if we know that the sum of these two brackets is a constant, then when each bracket is equal. However, when we look at the sum of these two, it is not a constant currently. So if we first want to adjust the sum, then we will first have to multiply both sides by 200, and hence when we multiply this, we get 200 into r on the left hand side. We can write the first bracket as it is, and we can multiply the second bracket by 200, which would make it 400 plus minus 20x. So now if we take the sum of these two brackets, we can see that it's a constant which is equal to 600. The x part cancels off and we get the constant sum as 600. Going back to our concepts, if the sum of two numbers is constant, then the product of those two numbers is maximum, when each number has the same value. And hence we would say that if the sum is 600, the product would be maximum when each bracket is equal to 300. However, we need to note that on the left hand side we have 200 into R, which we've now got as 300 into 300. And hence if we want to find the maximum value of R, we would actually take 300 multiplied by 300 upon 200, and we again get it as 450 rupees. So this is a third way of solving the same question using our method of maximizing the sum. Let's look at yet another way of solving the question where we now make use of graphs. Looking at the function, we have realized that the function is going to be a quadratic function, and hence, and further, the x square term is negative, and hence it's going to be an inverted U, something of this type. Now, if we say that this is the graph that we're going to get, and if we have a certain value here, let's say where we had 200 samosas at a price of 2, which gave me a revenue of 400 rupees, that is what we started off with. Because this function is a quadratic function, there is going to be yet another point here where the revenue will remain 400, and if we track that, then it should become 400 multiplied by 1 rupee. So that is the point at which we are going to get the revenue same as 400. Now, because a quadratic function is going to be symmetric, we know that the maxima actually is going to occur at a midpoint with respect to these two, and hence that is going to be 300 multiplied by 1.5, and this product is going to be 450. All that we've said is when our base is 200 at 2 rupees per samosa, when that 200 becomes 400, and for every increase of 200, if the price reduces by 10 paise, for a total increase of 200, the price is going to reduce by 1 rupee, and hence the revenue at these 2 points was the same, which was 400. Midpoint would be the one that gives us the point of maximum. So we notice that the same question actually we have solved using 4 different ways. One using a mechanical method, another using a concept of derivatives, a third using another concept of maxima minima with respect to sum and product, and a fourth method involving graphs. And this is the beauty of this entire topic of algebra, where you have so many different ways of solving every question. Maybe what you can do is actually go through all these different methods, see what you are most comfortable with, and master that particular method.